53:28. This is the time you would get if you beat Mario Odyssey as fast as humanly possible. No mistakes, no time loss, and no slow movement. Just peak gameplay. Gameplay that far transcends the capabilities of even the best player in the entire world. But how are we even able to get the best theoretical time down so low in the first place? And will there ever be an Odyssey speedrun that is perfect, let alone close to it? Perfection is a very taboo subject when it comes to just about any game in speedrunning, because players will always find a way to go faster. The only game I can really think of that is even close to perfection is the original Super Mario Bros, but even then, players still have a long way to go before matching the tasks. As far as Odyssey is concerned, we don't even have a task of the entire any percent run. While certain segments of the game have been put through tasks, it's all still within pretty early development, and I don't think we will see a full game and fully fleshed out tasks for a very long time. But what we do have is the BTT, which, as mentioned earlier, stands at a 53:28, which is almost 3 entire minutes ahead of the current world record. Not only does the BTT contain 0 mistakes, but there are a lot of strategies done in the BTT that are not done in runs. While most of these strategies are just small movement optimizations that very quickly add up over the course of the run, there are also a decent amount of bigger tricks that are simply too dangerous to go for. So while it would take me hours to explain every part of the run, let's take a look at these tricks that are too dangerous before I ultimately debunk what might possibly be Mario Odyssey's biggest myth. Right off the gate, we are met with a trick that saves quite a bit of time. People will normally use this chain chomp to break open this rock and collect the first moon in Cascade, but it's actually possible to clip through this wall and collect the moon without breaking the rock. This is called a roll cancel clip, and while there are many RCCs that can be reliably pulled off in a real-time setting, this specific one is insanely difficult given that your frame window to clip through the wall is significantly small. It's also worth mentioning that you have to get the RCC first try if you want to even save the full 3 seconds, which just adds to the list of reasons as to why it's not done in runs. In Sand Kingdom, we have a similar case as we have another RCC that is too risky to go for in runs. This time, it involves doing a roll cancel on this icicle, and if done first try, it saves a few seconds over using this platform to clip out of bounds, as a means of collecting these 2 moons. But once again, this RCC is simply just too difficult to do in runs, let alone get first try. Surprisingly, this route done in the BTT actually matches the any percent world record from Sand all the way until loss, but things get absurd once we get the Metro. If you know anything about any percent, you know that runners will set their clock to 1:53 AM, so by the time they get the Sand Kingdom, they are able to get the Seed Moon without waiting, since the clock jumps from 1:59 AM to 3 AM as a result of daylight savings. However, the BTT does something a little different. Since the BTT gets the sand so quickly, the clock is set to 1:54 AM to ensure Mario is able to collect the Seed Moon without wasting any time. But once we get the Metro, we are able to abuse DSTA not once, but twice. For the longest time, the BTT only collected 1 Seed Moon. While it would be extremely difficult to even make it in time to plant the Seed Moon, since it's being planted halfway in the run as opposed to at the beginning in Sand, there's another layer of difficulty involved, and that is the RCC, which is used to make it to the bullet building sub area. But at the beginning of the year, it was discovered that you could actually clip out of bounds during the Mecha Wiggler fight, which allowed for a Metro reroute to prosper, as players had enough time to collect this moon during the fight, as opposed to getting it later on in Day Metro. With this huge trick being not only discovered but implemented into runs, players were tasked with rerouting all of Metro Kingdom, and this reroute was nothing short of legendary. At the start of Metro, players will go through the City Hall so that they can not only get this moon, but make it to the Mecha Wiggler boss fight. But through tasks, it was discovered that you could skip the City Hall entirely by doing these insanely difficult bounces off of whatever the hell these things are called. Only as of recently has this trick actually been able to be pulled off in real time, but if someone could pull off this trick in a run, they could replace the City Hall moon with another Seed Moon in Day Metro, therefore creating double DSTA. There's no understating how crazy this route in Metro is, but we're only halfway through the run, and things continue to get crazier as we move on to Snow and Seaside. A few years back, a player by the name of XDXbox Jaja accidentally discovered that you could clip through this wall, which would then allow for you to get this moon without using the Goombas to hit this switch. The only problem with this trick is that it is only able to be done consistently in runs with this precise camera setup. But if players were able to consistently do the trick setup-less, like how it's done in the BTT, they would be able to save 7 seconds as opposed to 4. And when it comes to Seaside, just about everything done in the BTT is done in runs, but nonetheless, I still find it wild that we were able to use this fish to clip out of bounds not once, but twice, which leads to over 10 seconds of time save. But when it comes to Luncheon, we are once again met with an insane route that is just too difficult to save time with. For the first half of Luncheon, the moon route remains the same, but after you complete this fork sub area, there is a precise RCC you can pull off, which leads to this cheese sub area. This RCC in itself has a very tight frame window, but this moon you collect in the sub area makes it even more difficult to save time. These pan bros, which are used to break the cheese, don't shoot out their pans in a consistent pattern, meaning that you have to be very particular and careful when it comes to getting this moon. This is then followed up by another trick that requires you to do what is called a slope vault. As the name implies, a slope vault is when you do a vault off of Cappy on any given slope, and these are quite tricky to pull off because most of the time you'll either bounce off of Cappy and not get a vault, or you'll miss Cappy entirely, meaning that there's only a few frames of wiggle room, sometimes even less, to actually get the vault. So as far as this trick in Luncheon is concerned, you not only have to do a slope vault, but you then have to do another slope vault off of the already challenging slope vault. If this trick was just the first slope vault, then I'm sure players would implement it into their runs for their 4 seconds of time save, despite the large amount of risk involved with the trick. But because of the precision required to pull off the second slope vault, I don't see it being added into runs anytime soon. And with all honesty, that is the last big trick that is done in the BTT, but not in runs. There may be a bunch of smaller strategies that we don't do throughout Ruined, Bowser's, Moon, and the rest of the run, but it will take a very long time to incorporate all of these in the run because runners already have so much on their plate, which is to be expected during an hour-long speedrun that is both movement and trick intense. So there it is. If a human were to play perfectly, they would beat the entire game in 53 minutes and 28 seconds. Except there's just one problem with this mindset. One big misconception or myth when it comes to a best theoretical time like this. And this myth is that the BTT is nowhere near close to what the actual BTT is. And I don't just mean that it can go down a few seconds or minutes, I mean that it is literally nowhere near to what the actual best theoretical time is. A lot of people have viewed the BTT as this insanely optimal run, often coining it as a perfect speedrun. While I totally get why it's viewed through that lens, the reality is that one simple discovery can just completely obsolete everything. What if a new moon route was discovered? What if a new tech was found? Hell, what if a kingdom skip that saved minutes upon minutes was possible? There is just so much potential for this 5328 to go lower, even with the tools we have now. So imagine how much lower it'll actually go once we further strengthen our tools to dissect this game. Could you even imagine what a full game task would even look like? Well, even just saving 1 frame in each segment, which to my knowledge there aren't any frame perfect segments, with the exception of some of the mashing and cutscene skip segments, the BTT would go down by at least 5 seconds just from saving 1 frame in each segment. If you save 2 frames in each segment, that time save doubles. If you save 4 frames in each segment, that time save doubles, and so on until you've basically beaten the game in 0 seconds. While 5328 may be the best theoretical time right now, it is nowhere near perfect, and if you want to keep up with Mario Odyssey as it continues its quest to perfection, I highly recommend you check out the description alongside my other videos.